Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time, keeping you up to date with all the latest Arsenal transfer news, views and information regarding the transfer window and more. And thank you so much for making this, as always, part of this morning routine that you've got yourselves into, whether you're on the way to work, whether on the way to school, whether you're just sitting down on your sofa or in your bed with a couple of cornflakes. That'd be weird. That'd probably be the worst breakfast ever. A couple of cornflakes. But you know what I mean. A bowl of cornflakes might be better, or whatever you've chosen for this morning. But good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing good. And well, let's jump into the chat box and say good morning to our brilliant audience. Matt G, good morning to you. Gooner, Martin, Andreas, Rahil, Olu, good morning. Gooner Legend, Wilson, Red Star, good morning. Baldev, Akshat, AV, Wadham, Stevie, and of course my good friend Owen, who I joined last night on the Gooners pod. If you want to go check out a very, very fun and impromptu chat about Arsenal and my wedding, all of that stuff is over there. So make sure you go and have a listen because it's good fun. Anyway. I love that, Harvey. I was going to say there's no sound, and then I realised I had my speakers off. So I'm hoping that you can you can hear me absolutely fine now, Harvey. There's always the way. Turn your volume up. That does solve many problems with these types of things. If you haven't already dropped a like on the video, please make sure you do. It really does help us out, and it takes you just one teeny second just to go like on the video, done, and it really helps me out. So thank you if you have done. And I was looking at the analytics the other day, and apparently, of all the people that watch the show, only 51% of people that are watching are subscribed. What's that about? Like, freeloaders, come on. Who's it called freeloaders? I think it was Harry. I think Harry described you lot as freeloaders. So if you haven't already, do subscribe. It really does help us out and pushes us towards our next target. And it tells you when we do our other shows, because we do more than just the 8 a.m.s. So do make sure that you tune in as many days as you can. We kick off by telling you to go and subscribe to the Arsenal Way. I'll be there at 10 a.m. this morning, joined by the usual suspects. Plenty of stuff to chat about with Chris and Bailey, as always. So do make sure you're a subscriber over there if you're not already. But our first story of the day is on Jordan Osei-Tutu, who we have to unfortunately wave goodbye to because he is joining Bochum in Germany on a permanent deal. There was a lot of hype around Jordan Osei-Tutu because as a right back, he had great technical skill, really good dribbler on the ball, liked to get forward. Scored in the I was going to say the Johnston's Paint Trophy, but it's not that anymore. The FA Trophy. Look, I think that it's a shame that never worked out. Injuries played its part, and that is ultimately the reason why. But hopefully he can get his career back on track, and we wish Jordan the absolute best with his future, and hope he can turn his career around. And speaking of possible players that might turn their Arsenal careers around, not exactly like it's gone bad, but Tim Akinola joined Dundee United last season on loan. I don't really know too much about how that loan went, to be honest. I never really heard any raving reviews or people going mad about his performances in Scotland. But he will be remaining with the club as Arsenal have activated a contract extension clause for 2 extra years. So he will be remaining with Arsenal. Most likely will go out on loan again next season, although there is a chance he could stay again with the under-23s. But Tim Akinola's future at the moment is to remain with Arsenal, which I think is positive news for both him and the club. However, a player that won't be with the club next season, it seems, is Daniel Ballard. Now, Daniel Ballard, Northern Ireland international, 22-year-old centre-back, spent last season on loan with Millwall after spending the season prior to that on loan with Blackpool, helping them get promotion to the Championship in the playoff final. He is expected to join Burnley in a deal that probably will be around the £2 million figure. Not a huge amount of money. However, the differences with this one is that Arsenal have inserted a clause or are aiming to insert a clause into this deal so that if Ballard ever gets any future bids, Arsenal are able to match those bids and basically get a kind of a first refusal, and then Ballard will be able to choose where he wants to go. So Arsenal are learning from their mistakes in the past, that's for sure, regarding what they should have done with players like Gnabry and Marlon and Ismail Benassa and Yunus Musa. We're learning. And I say Benassa, I think we actually did have a first refusal on him. But, Daniel Ballard, I think it's good that we're inserting this kind of clause into the player's contract. It should help us out a lot more in the future with other deals that we see players leave maybe before their time or their chance at the Gunners. And now we're going to hopefully see that with someone like Ballard. So good news, despite Ballard leaving the club to join Vincent Kompany. at Burnley, which is a really interesting move. William Saliba, then more news about him. According to outlets in France, Marseille again did try and make a deal for Saliba permanent for next season. And Saliba will basically be told that that's not happening. Arsenal have no intention of selling him or letting him leave this summer. He is being integrated into the squad this season, and we will hopefully see plenty more of Saliba in an Arsenal shirt playing for the Gunners, which is fantastic news. Of course, all of us, really, 99% of us at least, have wanted to see Saliba given an opportunity, given a chance to show Arsenal what he's capable of, and that certainly looks like what is going to happen. However, Marseille continue to have interest in other players, such as Nuno Tavares. They have come in with a serious offer of a loan deal. They're trying to continue to negotiate with Arsenal and convince them to sell. It's unlikely that Arsenal would let him leave without having already agreed a deal for a possible replacement. More about that in a second. But Marseille have proven to be a good place for Arsenal's players to go to and develop and get better. We know that with Guendouzi, who's of course staying, and we know that with Saliba, who's not. Sead Kolasinac, kind of a different example and certainly more of an anomaly. But I wouldn't mind seeing Nuno Tavares go somewhere like France to kind of, develop. It's a physical league. I think he'd benefit from that. He'd be able to get forward and show what he's capable of, and he'd play very regularly. So I look forward to see what Nuno Tavares can bring to Marseille should that deal happen. But it is probably reliant on Arsenal bringing in a player. Now, one of those players that won't be a replacement for Tavares, but Arsenal are said to have an interest in, is Seko Fofana of Lens. I don't know too much about the guy, and the fact he's a very all-round midfielder, can do plenty going forwards and backwards, and has really, lit up Liga. He's one of those kind of stars of the smaller teams in Liga, and lots of teams and lots of leagues have these kinds of players. But PSG is said to be leading the race for him, whilst Arsenal and Newcastle both have an interest in the player. I wouldn't be expecting Arsenal to go in for Seko Fofana, but there is reports, according to L'Equipe, that Arsenal do have an interest in the midfielder. So maybe one to keep an eye on as the window progresses if he doesn't move. Now, I mentioned that Nuno Tavares' move to Marseille is probably reliant upon a player coming in the other direction. And that player, as we know, is Lisandro Martinez. Now, Arsenal have already had one bid rejected. As we know, there is expectation that Arsenal will go back in for the player. David Ornstein reported yesterday evening that Arsenal's interest in him remains very, very strong indeed. They really want to get a deal done. That said, the reports coming out from the Netherlands are that Ajax have absolutely no intention of selling now for close to 60 million euros. It feels like every report every day just sees the price of this guy go up and up and up. Now, there's no intention of Ajax to kind of get rid of what they describe as the big three, which is Lisandro Martinez, Jurrien Timber, and Antony. Antony is the 80 million pound player, whereas Jurrien Timber and Lisandro Martinez are seen as the 60 million euro players, basically, at this stage. But I think if Arsenal are able to offer a certain deal and Lisandro Martinez is willing to kind of push for a move, I hope that would be able to combine to give Arsenal enough kind of rope to get a deal done. Fingers crossed that's what we can see happen. But it is going to be a very difficult deal for Arsenal to get done. But fingers crossed we can see it happen this summer. Now, our final and headline story remains Raphinha. No Jesus update, no Tielemans update, I'm afraid. There's nothing new on those players, and I don't want to just talk about them for the sake of it. But the latest on Raphinha is that there have been whispers, suggestions. I'm waiting for some genuine, credible sources to confirm this, that Arsenal have put in a 55 million euro plus 15 million euro in add-ons bid for the player. If we think about this logistically, that's around 48 odd million pounds plus about 10 million pounds in add-ons. So you're looking at a 58 million pound deal in total for Raphinha. I, to be honest, don't think that's all that bad of a price. I think 55 million pounds, just upwards of that, is probably a fair reflection of the player being a Premier League quality talent. His statistics are absolutely unreal. The only problem for Arsenal is that we're spending this kind of money on a player that we already have our best player playing in the same position. So it is obviously going to have some kind of impact on Bukayo Saka. We're waiting for official confirmation on whether or not this deal has taken place, has happened yet. But the suggestions are that Arsenal's patience is running out, and they're concerned that if Barcelona are able to move off the books the likes of Frenkie de Jong, they would still go in for him. That said, there is plenty of rumours that Ousmane Dembele will renew with Barcelona, and therefore it wouldn't make much sense for Barca to then go in for Raphinha. The other threat, of course, is Chelsea and Tottenham. We don't know about what their intentions are. There were some indications that they may ask to make a bid. How likely he is to move there is unsure right now because they have Kulusevski, of course, and they've just brought in Perisic. Whereas Arsenal, of course, have Bukayo Saka. So there's an argument that both clubs have barriers for the player. Chelsea, meanwhile, there was a suggestion yesterday that Hakim Ziyech could be using a possible make weight in the deal. Not sure how real that is, but Chelsea do have an interest in the player. Arsenal are trying to move quickly to get this deal done because they know there is plenty of competition from other sides around both England and in Europe. And that completes all of today's stories, which means we're going to move to you guys in the chat box. I did put a question for you guys to answer as a poll. So if you haven't already voted on today's poll, do make sure you drop one on there. The question is, are you surprised that Tavares might leave the club on loan? Did you expect him to stay with the club this season? And unsurprisingly, a lot of you think that it isn't that much of a surprise. 82% of you so far from 500 odd votes have said, no, it's not a surprise. 18% of you, however, are a bit surprised to see him leave this summer. Let's move to the second part of today's show, which as always is our questions. So make sure if you haven't already dropped a question into the chat box, now's your time after this short break. Okay, let's jump into the chats and see what you guys have been asking. Mark Bagridan, thank you for joining us, Mark. Always a pleasure. One of the chat box members I've met in real life says, Tom, do Jesus and Nketiah give us enough firepower up front? Or do you think Arteta is looking for more goals from Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard? And Raphinha, of course, as well. Smith Rowe, you could obviously add into that, and maybe even Fabio Vieira too. I think that the honest answer is probably no. It's probably not enough Nketiah and Jesus on their own. You know, as striking options, I wrote about this morning. A piece has already come out talking about how Gabriel Jesus is ending our kind of search for a striker this summer. And a lot of people thought we might go out and sign two big strikers this summer. When you think about how much we're spending on other areas like Fabio Vieira, Lisandro Martinez, Raphinha, Turner, Marquinhos, maybe a central midfielder. When you consider all of those factors combined, it doesn't surprise me that Jesus and the renewal of Nketiah are the only business we're doing in the striker position, because we've had all these needs to try and upgrade other areas of the pitch, that it basically just means that there was never going to be the financial capacity without Champions League qualification to sign two strikers. I think that the victim of not getting Champions League football this season is the second striker signing. I think that was always going to be looked at as a bonus if we'd have qualified for the Champions League. The fact that we've able to renew Nketiah means that there's less pressure, but there's still going to be a lot of expectation and a lot of scrutiny on Arsenal if they don't score enough goals next season with Nketiah and Jesus. But I think you're right. There is going to be emphasis on other players like Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira to step up and score more goals for us. It's probably another reason why we're going for another goal-scoring winger in Raphinha. Matt G says, haven't seen any links for Pepe. Rather than wait till the end of the window for clubs to try lowball us, do you think we should try to swap him? I'm not sure about who you would swap him with. I don't think Leeds would have an interest in bringing Pepe in. I don't think Ajax have an interest in bringing him in, or any kind of club that we're looking to bring in for central midfielders either, unfortunately, Matt. I think he will move towards the end of the window. The intention is for him to move. That's why he changed agents this summer. I just don't think that we're going to see that as an easy sale because his wages are what they are. He should be willing to take a pay cut to try and secure a move away because he's earned a fair amount of money whilst at Arsenal and with the signing on fees, etc. So you'd think maybe he would be open to taking a bit of a pay drop in order to play more regular football next season. Lewis says, I've heard Clive speak about how he feels Saka could play left back, and I can see it. Saka's best role is right wing, but would still probably be the second best playing in the team if he plays in any other position. Let's get Raphinha. I think if you're going to play Saka left back, it has to be left wing back in kind of a three at the back system. That's how I would use it in a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1 kind of system. That's, for me, the best way to play Saka in a wing-back role. I wouldn't be playing him in a back four, but I would be more open if he was playing in a wing-back position because he's played there successfully. the idea of playing him in a left 8, as I can see some of you guys suggesting, is also a possibility, but we've not really seen too much. Oh, sorry, left 8, not left back. That's my bad, Lewis. Sorry, I completely thought that was an LB that you put into there. A left 8's interesting because we've not seen him play there too much. We saw him play there against Leicester, if you remember, away a couple of years ago, but not really beyond that. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I'll be back in 2 seconds. You know those awkward moments your phone starts ringing and you're like, you don't want to be too rude and hang up because the person it is, you don't want to hang up on. That was the exact moment I just had. So apologies for that. Managed to fit that up into 6 seconds of a video there. That would have been hilarious if I hadn't have done. You think Jesus' price tag is fair? He has only 1 year left on his contract. So if he had 3 years left, he basically would be valued around 100 million. Do you think he's that quality of player? Says Dogan. The answer is it's not reflective of the length of period on his contract because there's so much interest in Gabriel Jesus. It doesn't matter how long's left. Manchester City could command a figure that was of a level that they would not be able to be worried about losing too much money on. So there you go. Let's just have a quick check on Twitter because I'm seeing some small rumors flying about. Nothing yet though, so we'll keep refreshing just in case. Let's go to the Wiki Tiki 123 who says literally no one is looking at Pepe, which isn't good. Not true. We've had inquiries from a number of clubs like Marseille and Lyon and Sevilla so far, but we need more, you know. And to be honest, in terms of that player, you're not going to see much heavy interest in him, I feel, until later on in the transfer window. Matt G says, unpopular opinion, I don't think Raphinha moves this summer. He really wants to move to Barca, so I think he'll stay with Leeds another year. I'm almost certain he's going to move. It's just about where he ends up that I'm not 100% sure on right now. Let's go to NVR, who says, Tom, any links to selling players like John Jules and Aziz? I don't think loaning will be any good for them. I think John Jules has already gone on loan to Ipswich. He's joined Ipswich this summer already. Miguel Aziz, I think, may be kept with the group. He obviously didn't have the best of loan spells with Portsmouth. He did really well with the under-23s the season before and with England's under-19s, 20s. So there's still a future for Aziz. I think he'll obviously go away with the tour for pre-season. This will be one of the first pre-season tours he gets to be involved in. So obviously there's that kind of plus about this summer as well. Let's wait and see what happens with Aziz. I don't think his future is decided just quite yet. Sam Lowe says, hi, Tom. Do you think if Leeds are asking for 55 plus, don't you think we should just go and for Gnabry? Gnabry doesn't want to come. I'm going to be very honest with you guys, very blunt. I don't think Gnabry wants to come. I don't think he wants to take the drop down to non-Champions League football. We've got this obsession with the idea that he's a former Arsenal player, so of course he'd have an interest in coming to Arsenal, but it's just not realistic. Gnabry is not willing to take that drop down. From my understanding, it's just not a realistic move. Dr. Bombay says, why is it when Arsenal players are close to the end of their contracts, teams buy our players on discounts, but when it's the other way around, it's never the same way? Mainly because they're completely different profile of players. The players that go down to 1 year of contracts for us are players like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like Pablo Mari, like Reece Nelson, like Alexandre Lacazette. Players that there just isn't interest in. Gabriel Jesus has been one of the better Premier League performers of the last 4 years and has been an absolute asset to Manchester City. So when he goes down to a year left on his deal in his mid-20s, he is going to command a figure that is significantly higher than that of the players that we've got on our books with just 1 year left. It's all about the context of the player. That's why you see the differences. Let's go to Michael, who says, hey, Tom, do you think Brook Norton-Cuffy will be loaned out? I think it will be decided after pre-season, Michael, to be honest. I think he will get an opportunity either on the tour or on the German training camp, and then they will make a decision on his future. If he stays, I think he's got a really good chance of getting some senior minutes this season. Ashley says 60, 70 million for Raphinha. Surely this money should be used on a DM, left back and target man striker. I get your thoughts. Of course, a left back and DM may be secured in Lisandro Martinez anyway. So we might not even need to worry about that, Ashley, because Lisandro Martinez can cover both of those positions really well. And Arteta likes players that can cover multiple positions that you can invest in just the one player, so you don't expand the squad too greatly on backup options, and rather you bring in a competitor that can play multiple roles. And the thing is that Arsenal do need competition in the wide areas more so. You think about the players that we've got. Pepe is going to move on, so you've then got Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka, Fabio Vieira, Odegaard that can all play in the wide areas. They're all 23 and under, So bringing in a mid-20s, going into his prime player that can offer us a lot, I think is still a very, very good move for Arsenal to do this summer. And I think if you consider Arsenal's front three next season could be Raphinha, Gabriel Jesus and Saka, that's exciting. That is an exciting front three to consider. A lot of people are saying Jesus is done in the chat, but nothing's coming up on my screen as of yet to tell me that there's been any kind of announcement. That's not to say that there won't be very soon. We've said on the channel for a number of days now that it's a case of when, not if. I'm not seeing anything just quite yet. Lynn says, I can't believe that Winks doesn't play, but Spurs seem to get more for him than we get for our players. Winks still has 2 years left on his contract. He's an England international. He's homegrown, of course. He's not down to that 1 year. And he has played for Spurs at times. Of course, when they brought in Rodrigo Bentancur, those minutes significantly dropped, and he was competing with Højbjerg and, of course, with one other player who's completely escaped me. Can't figure who it is. Doesn't matter. It's a Spurs player. But it is ridiculous still as a price. 15 to 20 million pounds for Harry Winks is still a silly, silly price. That said, he's, as I said, full England international. We got 25 million pounds for Joe Willock. Someone who's not an England international, not got anywhere near as many Premier League minutes as Winks, and we got a very good deal. So sometimes players just move for silly fees. Sometimes they just move for those silly prices. Let's go to scroll up a little bit more. Ethan says, good morning, Tom. If we get Jesus, Raphinha and a centre mid this transfer window, I honestly see us excelling past 5th, 4th and contending for top 3. It depends. I think we need that Lisandro Martinez signing as well. That's going to really, really help us next season. I am reluctant to start putting things like pressure on positions. I just want to see us progress, which means qualifying for the Champions League. That's my expectation for next season. Qualify for the Champions League, progress again, keep moving upwards. I'm happy. If we don't qualify for the Champions League, there's going to be serious questions about what we're doing, especially after how much we're spending. Let's go to Craig, who says, I think people are forgetting how hectic the fixtures are going to be next season. We need so much depth. And with 5 subs, everyone will get minutes. Remember that, and we talked about this on the Gooners pod yesterday, if Leno, Pablo Mari, Reece Nelson, Nicolas Pepe, we've had Alexandre Lacazette leave. We've had, who else is going to leave? Have I said Leno? Runarsson, there's another one. Bellerin, and I'm sure there's one more. Basically, there's around 9 players that are going to be leaving next season. We expect about 9 players, which means we have 4 slots. 4 slots to fill in the squad. That's not including Marquinhos and Turner and Trusty and all these players. Well, Trusty, to be fair, is another one we expect to go on loan. The players that have come in already, the Vieiras, the Marquinhos, the Turners. We have 4 spots, and if those 4 spots are filled by Gabriel Jesus, Raphinha, Lisandro Martinez, and one other player, maybe a midfielder, that's the 25-man squad. That's it. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that one of those players like Lisandro Martinez can fulfill the role of a centre-back, a defensive mid, and a backup left-back. He can fulfill all of those roles, and he's taking up 1 spot in the squad. So I think that's something that we need to be considerate of. We are going to wrap things up there. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, as always. Do drop a like on the video. I'll be back with you guys at 10 a.m. over on the Arsenal Way. Link to the channel is in the description down below. I'll also be live around 6 o'clock. Not sure what we're going to be discussing as of yet, but I'm definitely going to be doing a show at 6. So do make sure that you are tuned in for that. Turn those notifications on, drop a like on the video if you are indeed not doing that already, because you should be. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.